Hello, and welcome to Let's Talk Immigration. Today is Wednesday, October the 8th, 2025. Um, I'm going to talk a little bit about what's going on with Ready to Go Law, what's going on with U.S. visa news, and then I will go to the questions that you offer in the comments, and I'll put the question up here and I'll answer it the best I can. Okay? Um, so, what's going on with Ready to Go Law? We are onboarding a group lawsuit right now for family preference category visa applicants to challenge the lawfulness of the travel ban. We filed one lawsuit on behalf of family preference category plaintiffs. It's been served. Government has 60 days to file a responsive pleading from the time you serve it. But we've heard from people who missed that opportunity, who wanted to participate. As you know, there are 19 countries impacted by the travel ban. And so there's a lot of victims of the travel ban. So this lawsuit, if you go to our website, readygolaw.com, it's being onboarded right here at the top, okay? And there's a case prospectus where we explain the nature of the lawsuit. Family preference category. That's what this lawsuit's for, okay? Onboarding ends on Friday, October 10th. Okay. Family preference categories are F1, not F1 student, F1 immigration, F2A, F2B, F3, and F4. Okay. If you don't remember, F1 is adult child of a U.S. citizen. F2A is a spouse or a minor child of a green card holder. F2B is adult child of a green card holder. F3 is a married adult child of a U.S. citizen. And F4 is a sibling of a U.S. citizen. So if you're in any of those categories and your visa application is already documentarily qualified, doesn't matter if you've had your interview or not, and you are impacted by the travel ban, which means you're from one of these 19 countries, I recommend you participate in this lawsuit, and I recommend that you move quickly because our onboarding ends on Friday. And I don't want phone calls next week to say, hey, can you add me in? Because the answer will be no, okay? We have strict deadlines on our onboarding because otherwise we won't get the lawsuits filed on time. Okay, so I've got on the website, there's 1 day and 8 hours of time that you could still join this lawsuit. I've got some frequently asked questions and some answers and our contact information there if you have questions, although it's going to be hard getting your question in and get an answer by the time onboarding ends. So you better jump on that. Okay. That's the one thing that's going on. Other things going on. Some of you remember that we won a partial motion for preliminary injunction in Thine versus Trump for DV 2025 selectees in DC with Judge Suknanan. And the Trump administration has appealed that order. Well, yesterday we filed a cross appeal. So the Trump administration is appealing the things in that order that they don't like. And so now we filed a cross appeal to fight on behalf of the things that we don't like about the order. So that litigation is going to continue. Basically, I'm going to go ahead and give it away here. We think that the judge erred in disregarding our cause of action related to non-delegation. In other words, we don't think that this ban is lawful. We don't think that the Constitution provides for Congress to have the ability to give this much power to the president. We don't believe that the Congress has the authority to give this much power to the president. We don't think that this is what the president did was within the scope of the authority that the Congress gave the president. So we will continue to fight that in our other existing lawsuits, but we're also fighting an appeal of the Thien order too before the Circuit Court for the District of Columbia. What else is going on? Okay. Ready Go Law. We've also got interest list. That's for group lawsuits. We're not onboarding now, but we're gauging interest to see if there's interest in the community for the lawsuit. So if you go to home on our website and then you go more, lawsuit interest list. See that right there? We have an interest list for EBs. That means employment based. EB1, EB2, EB2 NIW, EB3, EB5. Okay. IR5s. That's parents of U.S. citizens. We are doing this lawsuit. We're really looking for parents of U.S. citizens from travel ban countries. We have a sneaky little reason to do that. But that's the interest list here for delays. Like we can always file a mandamus lawsuit if you're in AP as an IR5, no matter what country you're from. But the group lawsuits tend to be more affordable. Okay. And that's important to some families, many families. Also, we have an interest list for DV 2026 selectees subject to the travel ban. We don't know when we will file this lawsuit, but we are collecting names and email addresses from the people that would be interested so that we can notify you when we start onboarding it and you do not miss that opportunity. A frequently asked question I'm going to get, I don't know if I've got it yet today, is when does DV 2027 registration start? I talked to Britt Simon in email about this, and we have differing opinions. Trying to remember the website. Okay. Oh, no, the wrong one. Okay. This is usually the website you go to find out when the entry period would start. And at this time of year, for the last 20 years, it was showing that the registration period is now, that it's already started. Like last year, like October 2nd to the November 7th of 2024 was for 2026. So you would think it would be October 2nd of 2025. It's not. There's no place here to enter the lottery. I believe there's two reasons for that. They have a new passport rule, so they have to update their software for that. But more importantly, they've got a new $1 requirement. It's going to be $1 to enter the lottery, the diversity visa lottery. And I suspect they have a challenge getting a merchant services company interested in taking $1 transactions from 192 countries across Earth. I bet that's a problem. Britt Simon is optimistic. I think he thinks it's going to happen within a couple months. That would be great. I checked the CFR today, the regulation, and it appears they could have legal authority to wait until the end of the fiscal year. They just have to offer that 30-day period this fiscal year. So sometime before September 30th, 2026, for 30 days, could be September of 2026, they have to have an entry period where people can submit entries. So I do not expect it to be this year. I think this year you're not going to see the diversity visa 2027 entry period. I think it's going to be a few months at best, but probably even more. It would be a disaster if they waited to the last 30 days, but still possible because this is the Trump administration. And they are basically clowns that don't even know how to run the circus. Okay. So I've talked a little bit about, okay, here's what I haven't talked about, U.S. visa news. Those of you who watch my show regularly know that we spend a lot of time here. A lot of time, the U.S. visa news is talking about our work. A lot of times, like maybe 1 out of 5 posts. We have 2 new ones today. A pause of routine visa operations at this place. Who knows where that is? It's the capital of Burkina Faso. Okay. And I need to, that's a country in Africa. Interesting. I did not know that. It's above Ghana and Togo. Okay. So apparently they've temporarily paused routine services there. Okay. That's fine. Um, what else is going on? Countries subject to visa bonds. Oh no, this is not good. I've clicked on it. I'm waiting for it. Visa bonds where you have to pay money to be able to come to the U.S. on a non-immigrant visa. So now nationals of 3, 4, 5, 6, these 7 countries, I think these are all in Africa, have to pay a visa bond to come into the United States. Either 5,000, 10,000, or 15,000. We kind of knew this was coming. And you could only come into one of 3 airports: Logan, Kennedy, or Dulles. Okay, that's crazy. Oh no, we already did that one. Update on DV 2026 program. Okay, some of you remember that we filed a lawsuit saying that, hey, DV 2025, they did wrong. I did this with Britt Simon. They did it wrong because they didn't even have any winners from UK, and that was suspicious. Well, they fixed that. And now I said, well, I'm going to keep the lawsuit alive because you did the same thing for DV 2026. And well, they fixed that too. So we still have that lawsuit alive, and I've asked them to settle, and they won't settle. So I don't know what we're going to do with that. Pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. What was before that? Restriction of entry on certain non-immigrant workers. I don't remember reading that. It came through on the 21st. So it's been a couple weeks. Oh, this is about the proclamation of H-1B, and this clarifies. Actually, this clarification says something a little bit different than the proclamation says, but I guess we're all going with this and not what the proclamation says, which is great. This impacts H-1Bs. Okay. I can see I already have some questions over here, so let's go ahead and skip to those. Those are more fun. Sammy says, hi, Curtis. How are you? Should I reopen my DS260 if my case says it's at KCC if I want to make corrections? Okay, so in this situation, since Sammy says KCC, that means this is a diversity visa application. I assume it's for DV 2026. Sammy doesn't say, but if it's 2025, that journey's over. So DV 2026 application, should I reopen if my case says it's at KCC if I want to make corrections? I think me and Britt Simon disagree on this. My recommendation is you do not reopen at this point because I don't want you to mess with your AV stage date. My recommendation is wait until the interview is scheduled at a U.S. embassy and then contact the embassy and ask them to unlock the DS260. And then you can make your changes and resubmit prior to your interview. That's my recommendation. Utker says, hi. Hi, Utker. I used to work with Utker back at a former law firm. Hopeful says, hi, Curtis. For how long I can delay my embassy appointment after they schedule an appointment for me? EB category. So I suspect that Hopeful is probably a visa applicant from a travel ban country. And so he or she wants to delay the visa appointment. So they don't face a 212F refusal. This is an interesting question because it's going around a lot. And my answer is this. Try to postpone the appointment. Put it in a future date. If the embassy doesn't do that, just don't show up. If you don't show up, they might threaten to cancel it or whatever, but I don't think they're going to do that because you haven't made visa application yet. Until you show up at an interview, you haven't made visa application. So they can't cancel it because it doesn't exist yet. In other words, you have an approved petition. Can't cancel the approved petition yet because you need an opportunity to make application. As long as you get with them every year, I think that this thing can just be on the back burner, be on hold, like a stay. But you have to email the embassy once a year and keep that evidence to show that you haven't forgot about it, that you're still invested and you care about that application. Abdullah says, "Hi, Curtis. When DV 2027 opening?" Abdullah, you look like a paralegal that works here at Ready Go Law. Nobody knows when DV 2027 is open. Britt Simon thinks it's going to be soon, or not real soon, but like weeks. I think it's going to be several months. I don't think it's going to happen until summer. And I think we might need to sue them to get it to happen too. And I've been thinking about that. Okay. Okay. So I've caught all the questions up. I've caught up the visa news. I've told you what Ready Go Law is up to. Other things. In my practice recently, I've been attending some USCIS interviews, and I have become very aware of how important this one tip is. And I want to share it with you. If you are in the United States and you are not a U.S. citizen, you have an obligation to keep the United States government aware of where you live. If you're an F1 student, you could do that through your CVIS administrator, I guess. But if you are an H-1B or you're a green card holder or you're asylum seeker, you need to do what's called an AR-11, okay? And you could do that online through your USCIS account, or you could print out the form and you can mail it in. But if you don't, you will face problems when you go to interview, because the officers are going to ask you questions like, why did you live at this place and not tell us? And they're going to say that they're going to think that you're a liar, that they can't trust you with anything because you can't do this one thing and tell them honestly where you are. Okay. And so what you need to do is not only complete the AR-11 and let them know where you are, but your documentation needs to be consistent and reflect that. Okay. So your driver's license, if you move, you need to change your driver's license. All your bills, where they go, you need to change that. I know some of you say, oh, but I'm young and I just I couch surf, or I have 2 homes and I'm a nomad and I live sometimes on a bus or something like that, or I live on a beach. The U.S. government has no tolerance for that. If you want to play that life, that's your story, well, then you don't have an immigration future in the U.S. The U.S. wants you to have a residence where you live, and they want to know where that's at, and you need to be able to comply with that. And if you can't figure that out, you're going to face problems, and you're going to have to pay immigration attorneys thousands of dollars unnecessarily, because all you have to do, keep USCIS informed of where you live. It's very important. Okay. I see I've got another question here. Is refugee travel document exempt from travel ban and safe to travel internationally? I'm not sure. Reach out to me directly on that. I want to see the document. I need to see the document. Send me the document. Curtis@readygolaw.com. Okay. Aman says, since the Golden Visa is expected to replace EB1 and EB2 NIW, what impact will this have on these visa categories? For example, what affect the approval of I-140 cases? Hi, Aman. I don't want to talk about this Golden Visa like it's a real thing, because it's not a real thing. Congress has never, okay, it takes Congress to create a visa category. They're not going to be able to make this visa category out of thin air. Also, there's not any demand for it at all. Like if you have $800,000, you can get a path to a green card through EB5. So why would you instead choose to spend millions of dollars for this pea-colored card? I mean, I just don't think it's going to happen. I don't think that anybody's going to really get a golden shower visa. But let's say that it happened. Let me see if I can answer your question anyway. what impact it would have is less EB1 and EB2s would be issued because those visas would go to the golden shower visa people instead. The thing is, it's not. There's not thousands of people with millions of dollars in line to become U.S. citizens under this alternative path instead of just using the existing path. Nope. It's not a thing. Trump is hallucinating, and that idiot with the Secretary of Commerce, whose son is some kind of crypto crook, that's the three of them together. I mean, I don't know if it's drugs or what, but they don't know what they're talking about. You're not going to see a golden visa. That thing's not going to happen. Okay, hopeful. What if I move temporarily from my job for a couple of months and come back home afterwards? I like that you said come back home, because that means your residence is the same. That means you didn't pack up your furniture and take it with you. You're still leasing the apartment. Your home is at the other place. So you don't need an AR-11 in that situation. You don't need to change your address with USCIS if you're keeping your principal residence where you reside and where you intend to return to. Okay? It's a good example. I'm glad you used that back home afterwards, because that told me right there. It's like, no, this is really your home. Okay, so that's all the questions. Nice 23-minute show. I will see you next Wednesday for Let's Talk Immigration. I want to jump back in my email. I think I'm like 12 hours behind. Okay, so talk to you soon. Take care of yourself. Have a good week.